Welcome to our STARS Town Hall. It's the first STARS Town Hall we've ever held from the Office of Sustainability. I'm Camille Kirk. I'm the Director of Sustainability and Campus Sustainability Planner. And I want to thank you for joining us today to celebrate and highlight what we've accomplished as a campus and the people behind the work. STARS, which we will explain fully today, is a very comprehensive assessment of sustainability in a higher education setting. And we are looking forward to sharing a bit about our process to complete this assessment and the findings from our preliminary gap analysis. Next slide.
All right, and hi everyone. Thanks so much for being here with us today. I'm Kelly O'Day, and I'm the Assessment Program Manager for the Office of Sustainability. And today we're going to talk about, for our agenda, we're first going to start with introductions of our team. We're going to go through a STARS overview, kind of explaining what STARS is. And then we're going to move into campus progress, explaining our most recent STARS report and the results of that. And then we'll talk about next steps for the campus, and then we'll save some time at the end for a Q&A. And we have a survey or a poll question for everybody. All right, and so our first poll question is, what is the main reason you are attending the STARS Town Hall today? The options are to better understand STARS, to find out what happens with data I submitted to our office, to learn more about sustainability on campus, or to bring information back to my office on how to be more sustainable. So 40% of you are here to better understand STARS, 27% to find out what happens with the data you submitted to our office, and 33% to learn more about sustainability on campus. So a bit of an almost even split there. So, all right, well, we're gonna get into talking about STARS, but first, end this poll. All right, and then Camille's gonna introduce the team.
Okay, so as you'll see later, we accomplished this assessment on a very tight timeline. And often institutions will spend 9 months to a year to complete a STARS report. I've been through STARS reporting 3 times before, so I knew how tall the charge was for us to do this and try to do this in 4 months and over the holidays at that. And so our secret to success with this intense schedule was our strike team that you see here. I pulled in 2 students and a Humphrey Fellow who were invaluable, along with our incredible career staff team. Of note, Kelly joined our office in early January as we were in the middle of our STARS report, and she jumped into a fast-moving effort that was basically like drinking from a fire hose. It was very intense, and Kelly showed incredible grace and creativity under pressure, joining us as a new office member in the middle of this really crazy project. But it also takes a village to do this, and our strike team could not have completed this report without all of our wonderful colleagues across UC Davis who helped us with data and sources of information, and also helped us interpret information at certain times. So we want to thank all of you and acknowledge how important your help was and continues to be in assessing campus sustainability performance. Before Kelly O'Day, our assessment program manager, continues with the presentation, I just want to note that STARS is a rating and not a ranking. So this assessment is sort of like a cross-country race. You're running against yourself, but you're also in competition with others. It's an endeavor where we're supportive of each other in the race while also cheering our own team on. Ultimately, we want a sustainable planet, so we need everyone to succeed while driving ourselves forward to greater and greater levels of performance. And of course, as cross-country coaches will tell you, you're supposed to dig deep and sprint the finish, which we indeed did. Again, I feel really fortunate to have such a great team to work with on this, and we could not have done this without each member and without all of the UC Davis community helping us. So I hope you enjoy learning more about our work, and Kelly will now take it away.
All right, and so, yeah, we're gonna get into an overview on STARS, but first we have another quick poll for you. How familiar are you with STARS? So it looks like most people know that they've heard of STARS before, so that's a good sign. And then about 20% of people are familiar with a specific category that's related to their work on campus. So that's great. It sounds like most people have at least heard of STARS. So we'll go ahead and close the polling. and I'll move into letting everybody know about STARS. So first off, what is STARS? Well, STARS stands for Sustainability Tracking Assessment and Rating System. And it's a program put on by ASHE, the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education. And basically, as Camille said earlier, it's a comprehensive sustainability rating system for colleges and universities that addresses the environmental, social, and economic dimensions of sustainability. So it is like a self-rating system, not a ranking system. And it's very broad across sustainability. And as we get into more on the report, I think a lot of you will be surprised as to how comprehensive the report actually is. And so yeah, STARS is a self-assessment and it allows institutions to earn ratings. So there's a reporter rating, which basically means the institution did a report, but they didn't get rated on their report. It's just they went through the process of evaluating their school. But then the other ratings, there's bronze, silver, gold, or platinum. And in that order, that's how many points you get. So the most points would be platinum, followed by gold, and then silver and bronze. And here we have a little breakdown of how STARS works. So there's the credit areas. So there's institutional characteristics, and that's sort of like the preface to the report. You don't really get points for that section, but parts of it are required for schools who submit. And then there's the academics section. So that covers courses and research on campus and stuff like that. There's the engagement section. So student engagement, employee engagement, operations, which covers a big range of campus operations. So like facilities, buildings, food, water, energy, all of that stuff. And then planning and administration, which covers diversity, equity, and inclusion, investments, and we'll get more into that one later on. And then there's innovation and leadership, which is sort of like a bonus category. So kind of how you can see that there's a lot of subcredits for operations has 9 subcredits. So like I said, that one's pretty extensive. But as far as the points breakdown, there's the 4 main categories I said: academics, engagement, operations, and planning and administration. So those categories make up the majority of your score, and it's sort of like a percentage. And then the innovation and leadership, the bonus category, you can earn a maximum of 4 points. And so that pretty much just gets added onto your final percentage. And that's how all of those are weighted. And so just a quick little snapshot of the subcategories. So in academics, there's curriculum and research. Operations, there's air and climate, buildings, energy, food and dining, grounds, purchasing, transportation, waste, and water. And then engagement has campus engagement and public engagement. Planning and administration gets into coordination and planning, diversity and affordability, investment and finance, well-being and work. And then the last one, innovation and leadership, is basically for institutions who are exemplary, like going above and beyond. But the innovations do cover a very broad section. So in innovations, there's 50 credits that you can get, and they cover all of the 4 categories. So there could be an innovation credit in academics, there could be one in engagement. It's very broad, but they're very specific. And we have another poll for you. So we'll go ahead and launch that. And the question is, which of the following STARS categories did you send the Office of Sustainability data in? And it looks like it's kind of split. It looks like half of you did not send us any data, which is fine. And then a lot of you sent us operations data. And then some of you academics, some engagement, and then a small amount don't know. They just sent the data we asked for, which is totally fine, because sometimes you don't know, you're just like, here, I'm going to respond to the data you're requesting. So that's great. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing results. And here's just another little breakdown of how the score works, because I think a lot of people can find the STAR scoring to be confusing. So it's the points that you earn in those 4 main categories: academics, engagement, operations, and planning and administration, divided by the total possible points. And then you multiply that by 100 to get a percent. And then you add on the bonus points that you get from innovation and leadership, which is a maximum of 4 points. And then that gives you your final score. And one thing that is really great about STARS is that it is a very transparent system. So you can, like, if you read through the manual, you can pretty much determine what kind of score you're going to get and figure out how the score is calculated. And I think that's one of the pluses of STARS. And so why does our campus choose to do STARS? Well, it is a strategic tool to improve campus sustainability. We can measure ourselves against other schools, kind of see how we're doing in specific areas and find areas to improve on. So it's a continuously improving metric. And it provides insight to the evolution of sustainability for higher education, which I think a lot of you might be witnesses to how that's an ever-changing area. What was sustainable 10 years ago has definitely changed to what is considered sustainable today. And then there's actually a new UCOP policy requirement and goal for campuses to achieve STARS. And I can talk a little bit more about that goal later. And then STARS also feeds into other metrics like Sierra Cool Schools list. So in order to be entered into that list, we do have to complete a STARS report or have one that's up to date. And then here's a little timeline of how the reporting process worked for us for the past report. So you can see it spans from November to May, so it is a bit of a lengthy process. And even then, I think our team found ourselves short on time. It was definitely, as Camille mentioned, an expedited process. So in November is when Camille starts sending out announcements that we're going to be completing a STARS report. December through February was a lot of data collection. I think a lot of you can attest to receiving emails from our office during that time period. And then March 6th was the day that we submitted our report. That was also the deadline for institutions to submit their report in time to be to have the option of being on the Cool Schools list for Sierra. And then not shown here, but then after March 6th is pretty soon when we all had to work from home due to the coronavirus. And then after working from home in April, we started the review process with ASHE, which involves a lot of back and forth, them just kind of, cross-checking our report, letting us know of anything that maybe needs to be fixed or reworded, or maybe areas that we could get more points in if we explained it a different way, stuff like that. And then so we went through that process with ASHE, and then May 1st, we submitted all of our review, and we finally achieved our gold rating. And then here's a little picture of our office, our STARS team. There was one meeting where we tasted every Girl Scout cookie flavor. And I think that was getting near to the end, and we just needed something to kind of lighten the mood because it was getting a little intense. And then you can see we are committed to thorough assessment practices. We used a little kind of a board system to keep track of all of the credits as we completed them. So credits we were working on were in one column, and then once you finished them, you got to move them. You got the satisfaction of moving it over into the done pile. And so here on one of the pictures, you can see all of the Post-its are moved over. We submitted our report at midnight. So this is all of the diehards right here. And then the next day after we got a little bit of sleep, but us with our completed board. So we're all very excited when we finally submitted. And so with that, we're gonna move into to our STARS report that we submitted this year. But do we have any questions at all? I just wanna stop and check in on that.
We have not received any questions in the Q&A, and I have not seen anything show up in the chat.
Great, okay. So moving into our STARS report that we just submitted, our overall rating was a gold rating, and our total score was 74.67%. All right, and here is just a very quick snapshot of all of the schools who submitted in STARS 2.2. So STARS 2.2 is the newest version of STARS. There's also a 2.1 version and a 2.0 version. So here listed, these are all the schools in the newest version. And these are all the schools that earned a gold or a platinum rating. And actually on this list, Arizona State University is the only school at this point in time that has earned a platinum rating. So you can see they're at the very top. And then every other school listed is a gold rating. And then in the blue, we have academics. In the purple section is engagement, green is operations, and then yellow is planning and administration. And here's a little zoomed in version of the previous graph. And so this is showing the top 10 scoring schools in the STARS 2.2 version. And this is by percent earned in each category. So again, you can see Arizona State University, the platinum scoring school, is at the top. And then Davis was actually number 8 on the ranked list. And a couple of things I just want to point out is that you can see a lot of the schools, starting with Arizona State University. So again, the blue and the purple are academics and engagement. And so a lot of the schools that were higher scoring than Davis, they actually scored their highest scores in those 2 categories. So you can see it's true for Arizona State University, kind of going down to Victoria, Santa Clara, but then when you go to Davis, the 8th one down, you can see that our scores in each category aren't too different from each other. We scored, roughly very similar in all of the categories, but actually a little lower in operations. But then when you look at the operations, the green category, we scored higher in operations than a lot of the other schools above us. So that was just something that I found interesting and wanted to point out to everyone. And then moving forward, we have graphs of how we ranked in each category to all of the schools that were platinum and gold in the newest version of STARS 2.2. And I'm just going to run through these kind of quickly. So in academics, you can see UC Davis ranked number 16 out of all those schools. And then in engagement, we ranked number 19. In operations, we were actually number 5. And then in planning and administration, we were number 5 again. So you can see in those first 2 categories, academics and engagement, we ranked much lower than we did in operations and planning and administration. All right, and then here we have a comparison of UC Davis and Arizona State University. And the reason we wanted to do this comparison is because UC Davis achieved a gold rating and ASU achieved a platinum rating. And so if we're going after a platinum rating, hopefully in the future, it's good to see how a platinum school scored differently than us. And so the green bar is the overall score, purple is academics, blue is engagement, the yellowish green color is operations, and then the light blue color is planning and admin, and then the lowest bar is innovation and leadership. So you can see both of us got our max points on innovation and leadership. But what I really want to point out to you is the academics and engagement. Again, you can see that Arizona State University scored well above us in those categories. And so that's the biggest takeaway with this graph that I wanted to point out. And then here, we talk about how we compared to the other UCs. And so this one's a little bit different because not all of the UCs have submitted in the newest version of STARS. So the orange schools are the ones that submitted in version 2.2, the newest version. And then the blue are schools that submitted in the older version 2.1. And then the yellow is schools that submitted in the oldest version, which is 2.0. So you can see UCLA and Davis are the only ones so far that have submitted in 2.2. And we are both working on our reports actually on at the same time and reaching out to each other for support throughout the process. And so this is ranked in order of how everybody scored as well. And so as I mentioned earlier, there is now a UCOP policy and goal around the STARS reports. And so the goal is for everybody to achieve silver by 2023. And as you can see on this graph, everybody has. So it may seem like a silly goal, but because a lot of the schools have submitted only in the older versions of STARS and not the newest versions, we didn't want to set the bar too high for everyone where they couldn't reach it, because the newer version, I think as Camille could attest to, is a lot, I would say like a lot harder compared to the earlier versions. So we didn't want everybody to struggle with reaching the new goal in the newer version before they've had the chance to submit a report in 2.2. But then you can also see what it takes to get gold. And so a lot of schools are actually in gold right now. And then we have one school in platinum, and that's UC Irvine, but that is in the 2.1 version. So we're all definitely very interested to see what this graph will look like once everybody submits in 2.2. And then we have another comparison here with UC Davis and UC Irvine. Again, just trying to see how we compare to a platinum school, especially one in the UC system. So again, UC Irvine submitted in 2.1, and then UC Davis submitted in 2.2. And it's very interesting actually, because, you know, we are all in the same UC system, but you can see UC Irvine scored significantly higher again in the academics and engagement categories. Not much higher than us in the operations category. And they did score a bit higher in planning and admin, but the main ones were academics and engagement that they scored much higher than us in. And so now we're going to dive into the UC Davis STARS report. So before we were talking about comparisons with other schools. And so now we're going to dive deeper into our actual report. But first off, just so everybody could get, sorry.
Kelly, I just want to, we have a question that came in asking us to briefly speak to some key differences between versions 2.1 and 2.2. So I was thinking maybe we'd do that right now before we go into the deep dive, just to give that sense of context.
Yeah, would you like to speak to that, Camille?
Yeah, sure. So as each version of STARS evolves, the general tendency has been to become much more quantitatively performance-based, moving from do you have something to how is that thing performing? So you need to measure it with some type of metric in how you're actually, what your efficacy is. And that's one of the key differences. There were many more changes in 2.2 to ask how something is doing, and that particularly changed in engagement. There was a lot of move from do you have a program that students can participate in, to how many students and how many hours and how are you measuring that, and same thing for staff participation. Another thing that changed that was a really big change for the UC system was a big shift in how food spend is measured, from local to plant-based food. And that's been a massive shift in both how we collect our data and also what it means for us as participants in STARS. So those are some of the key shifts.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and so as you can see in 2.2, the way the categories are weighted, so we have the blue is academics, purple is engagement, green is operations, and then the yellow is planning and administration. And here you can see operations is weighted the heaviest, followed by academics, and then engagement, and then planning and admin. So 34% is a pretty big chunk. And of course, this doesn't take into account the bonus points, the innovation leadership. These are the categories that kind of go into the percentage. And then innovation leadership points are added on afterwards. And then here is our overall score. So the blue bars are the points earned by UC Davis, and then purple is the total possible points we could have earned in STARS. So you can see in academics, you know, we scored pretty high compared to the points we could earn. The one that it does seem a little concerning is operations, because there's 70 points available and we only got about 44 points. And then here's another graph explaining our overall score. So this in the left bars, we have the UC Davis category score. And then in the right bars, we have the STARS category weight. And so again, it's the same colors as before. So blue is academics, purple is engagement, green is operations, and then yellow is planning and admin. So you can see operations, the green bar is weighted the heaviest in STARS, yet we scored the lowest percentage of points. So that's a big thing that jumps out to me. Everything else, it seems like we scored pretty similar percentage-wise, although planning and admin is weighted much less than academics. So that's another thing that jumps out to me here. So which sustainability areas are you familiar with or interested in hearing about? And you can check all that apply here. So we have pretty much across the board, it looks like the highest areas that people are interested in or familiar with are engagement, campus engagement and public engagement, and then operations, air and climate, buildings, energy, transportation. And then it looks like that was followed by operations, purchasing, and waste. So that's great. That gives us a little guidance on what everybody's interested in. So I'm going to go ahead and close out this poll and then move into the categories. So we're going to just dive into each category, starting with academics, then going to engagement, operations, and planning and administration. So starting with academics, again, we have, so there's 11 total credits in academics. So the yellow is going to be the STARS credit weight, so how each credit is weighted in that category. And then the right side is how UC Davis scored in each credit. So you can see in the left, the yellow graph, that AC1 and AC9 are really heavily weighted, followed by AC2. But when you look at where we scored, so AC1, one of the heaviest weighted ones, we scored 65%, which is not super terrible, but not really where we want to be. And then AC2 is weighted 14%, and we got a 45, which again, there's definitely room for improvement there. And then AC9 is also pretty heavily weighted at 21%. And we got an 88%. So, you know, that's not too bad in that category for us, but there's always room for improvement. And so we're going to go ahead and dive into each of those, the most heavily weighted credits, and talk about what they are and how the scoring works for those and how UC Davis did. So with academics, the first one, AC1, is academic courses. So how this credit is scored is they're looking at the percentage of courses that are sustainability course offerings. So what kind of classes are we offering that have a sustainability component to them? And then also the percentage of academic departments with sustainability course offerings. So how many of our departments have at least one course that is sustainability focused? And so you can see for the first one, the percentage of sustainability courses, UC Davis got an 11.85% of courses that are sustainability focused, but to achieve full points, we needed to have 20%. So we scored about half of what they were looking for. And then for percentage of academic departments with sustainability course offerings, we got 64, but they were looking for more than 90% to achieve full points. So definitely room for improvement in those areas. And for AC1, I would say one of the biggest struggles for us is trying to determine what is a sustainability focused course, right? Our campus offers so many courses, and the way that we do that is we basically go through every course offering our office does, and we rate them on like how sustainability focused they are. And so that's quite a process. If there was some way we could speed that up, or like a better way of determining that, I think that would be very helpful for us. And then AC2 is learning outcomes. And so the scoring for that is based on if the institution has one or more sustainability focused learning outcomes that apply to the whole student body. So this is learning outcomes for the whole campus, essentially, all of the students. And then percentage of students who graduated from degree programs that require an understanding of sustainability. So that one's looking more at the degree majors and what kind of learning outcomes those degree majors have, and if any of them are sustainability focused. And so you can see to achieve full points in the first one, it was, we needed to have at least one sustainability focused learning outcome. And for the whole campus, we had sustainability supportive learning outcomes, which means they sort of mention sustainability, but they're not quite focused as STARS is looking for. And so we didn't score as well in that one because we only had supportive outcomes. And then for the second one, percentage of students who graduated from degree programs, we had about 20%. To achieve full points, we needed 100%. So there's definitely a big gap in that one and a big area of improvement there. Oops. And then the last one is AC9, which is research and scholarship. So it's looking at all of our campus research and the percentage of employees who conduct research that are engaged in sustainability. And then the percentage of academic departments that conduct research that includes at least one employee who conducts sustainability research. So does the academic department have at least one person that's studying something sustainability related? And here you can see we did really well actually in the percentage of employees who conduct research that is sustainability. We got a 35 and they were looking for a 15% to achieve full points. And then for the second one, based on the academic departments, we got a 56% there and they were looking for a 75. So we did fairly well, but there is still room for improvement as always. And so the next we're going to talk about engagement. And I think a lot of people said they were interested in this one. So again, the yellow bar is the weight in each category score. And then the right bar is how UC Davis scored. And so you can see here, the most heavily weighted ones are EN1, which was weighted at 10%, EN5, which is also weighted at 10%, and then EN12 and EN13, which were both weighted at 12%. So looking at how we did, EN1, you can see we scored 61% of those points, which is definitely room for improvement for us. EN5, we scored 100% of the points, so go us, that's awesome. And then EN12 and EN13, we scored 60 and then 34% respectively. So definitely room for improvement in EN13 and EN12. And so I'm gonna go ahead and talk about those credits. Starting with EN1 and EN5. So EN1 is the Student Educators Program. This one's looking at the percentage of students served by a peer-to-peer program, and then educator hours per student served by a peer-to-peer program. So these are basically student programs where students are teaching other students about sustainability, essentially. And so for that first one, it was 22%, but they were looking for 100 to receive full points. And then for educator hours, it was, they wanted 1 hour for every student served by a peer-to-peer program. And so you can see we had 960 hours, but we served 8,000 students. So that's not quite the ratio they were looking for of 1-to-1. And one of the big things with EN1 is, as Camille, she was talking about the newest version of STARS and how it compared to the older version. And I think this is a good example of that because they're looking for actual metrics, not just are you doing these programs, but what actual numbers are you getting, like how involved is the campus. So I think this is a newer score for us, or a newer credit for us to be working on as far as finding the percentage. So for us, it's kind of like how to get this information was new for us this year. And then EN5 was an outreach campaign. And here they're looking for an institution that has at least one sustainability related student outreach campaign, and then at least one sustainability related employee outreach campaign. So a student and then an employee one. And we did great in this one. We had more than one, and that's all they were really looking for. And then the last engagement credits were continuing education and community service. And I won't get too into the weeds here with these ones, but basically they're looking at our continuing education program and trying to see if we have a sustainability focused degree program, which we did not this year. And then the percentage of courses in the continuing education program that are sustainability related. And we got 24, it was out of 10%. So we did pretty well in that one. But I think because we didn't have any focused certificate program, that was kind of why we scored lower in that category. And then the last one was community service. Here, this one's measuring basically how many students participate in community service and how the campus supports employees volunteering during regular work hours. And so I think this was a newer one for us to find metrics on. And so we had 23% when they were looking for 100. And then we also had 10.7 average hours per student per year when they were looking for 20. So we achieved about half. And then we don't really have a formal program to support employees volunteering during regular work hours. And Sue was actually the one who worked a lot on these credits. So Sue, I don't know if you have anything you'd like to add about these.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. I just wanted to add, I think there was another one that I thought would be interesting to share with folks is that we did not get full points for our employee peer educator program. And very similarly to the student educator program, that required metrics and that required, a certain number of, reporting a certain number of hours and trying to reach a larger portion of the population than our current programs do. So I think that's somewhere where we can definitely have room for improvement as well.
At the top of your head, Sue, do you know which credits those were?
Employee educators was EN7.
So EN7, okay. And yeah, you can kind of see our lower score there. All right, and so with that, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the operations section. Again, like the other sections, the left is how the credits were weighted in stars, and then on the right, we have UC Davis, our performance. And so here, the heaviest weighted categories were OP2 and OP18. You can see in OP2, we did a 71%. So, that's not too shabby, but we still want to try to improve that if we can because it's such a heavily weighted category. And if you remember, operations in general was the category that was weighted the most. And so just keep that in mind as I'm going through these. And then so OP18 again was 11% and we got a 36 there. So there's definitely some big improvement that we can make there. And then those were followed up by OP5 where it's weighted 9% and OP7, which is also weighted at 9%. And so for OP5, we did fairly well. We got an 85% in that category. OP7, on the other hand, is at 24%. So that's fairly low, and we would definitely like to see improvement in that one. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into those 4 credits and talk about them a little more. Starting with OP2, which is greenhouse gas emissions. So this one's basically looking at, is the campus reducing their greenhouse gas emissions? And so this credit scores greenhouse gas emissions per person. And you can see that UC Davis, we did 2.28 metric tons of CO2 equivalent. But in order to get full points, you have to be at a 0 adjusted net for scope 1 and scope 2 greenhouse gas emissions compared to your baseline. So we're at a 2.28, which isn't 0. So we still have some work to do there. And then for OP5, which is building energy efficiency, this one is basically scored on energy usage by floor area, and then checking that we are also reducing our source energy per unit of floor area. So here you can see Davis scored 13.51 BTUs of per gross square footage per degree day when they were looking for us to get less than 6.5 BTUs. So you can see we're doing more than double the target that STARS has set for us. And then we reduced our energy usage by 40.92%, but they're looking for a reduction of 50%. So, we're not too far off on that one, but we do have some work to do there. And then OP7 is food and beverage purchasing. And so this one is scored by looking at the annual food and beverage expenditures and looking and seeing what percentage of those are sustainably or ethically produced, and then also the percentage of that is plant-based. And so here, Davis, and this would be a combination of all food operations on campus. So Davis has a 12.2% of spent on sustainable products, and then we had 23% spent on plant-based. And so the targets here, they had a couple different ones you can get. So you could get 50% on sustainably or ethically produced, and then 100% plant-based, or 62.5% sustainably produced, and then 75% plant-based, or 75% purchases sustainably produced and 50% plant-based. And as you can see, we're not really meeting any of these numbers. So this is definitely a big one for us. And I know our food operations are working really hard to try to meet these STARS goals. And then the last one for operations is waste minimization and diversion. And so what this credit is looking at is reduction in total waste per person, the amount of total waste in person, and then waste diverted from the landfill. And so here, you can see that we reduced our waste per person by 15%, but they were looking for a 50% goal. So not quite there, still have some work to do. And then they were also looking for the total waste per person to be less than 0.05 tons. And right now we're at 0.59 tons. And then the waste diverted from landfill, we're diverting about 68%, and they're looking for 100. So, you know, these are all very, very high goals to reach. So I do think our campus is doing really well, but compared to the STARS goals, you know, we do have some work to do, and we are trying really hard to get there and taking all the steps we can. And Sue and Camille, I know Sue works a lot on waste, so I don't know if you have anything to add to this one. And then Camille, I don't know if you have anything to add for the greenhouse gas emissions and energy.
Yeah, for waste, I was going to just echo that these are very ambitious metrics that we're up against, and we're doing fairly well, but of course we can also always improve. And then just in case anyone was wondering, we used a baseline of 2005 numbers to compare with the last fiscal year, 18-19.
Great, thanks.
And then for the greenhouse gas emissions credit, I would note similarly to Sue that the goal of STARS is a very ambitious goal. It's not completely off of what our own goals are, although we have a plan for carbon neutrality across the UC by 2025, not 2020. So to some extent, the STARS metric would be an ambitious metric for us to try to meet right now. But still, it gives us a good benchmark for what we're trying to drive towards.
I guess I should pause and see if we have any questions.
We do, and I've been answering them by typing them so that everyone can see them.
Great.
We do. It is 11:49, so we.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer questions this way, and we'll keep moving through the slides.
Okay, great. And then I'll try to move a little faster here because I know we are running short on time. So our final category is planning and admin. So again, the left is how the credits are weighted. The right is how UC Davis scored. So the yellow, or the greenish yellow, is how UC Davis scored. And here the highest weighted ones are PA10, PA8, and PA2. You can see in PA2 we got a 75%. In PA8 we got also a 75%, and then in PA10 we had a 57%. So you know, 75% in the two highest weighted categories isn't the worst, but it's also not the best. And then in PA10, 57% is pretty low, so we definitely want to hopefully see some improvement there. And so PA2 is about sustainability planning. So it's basically asking if the institution has sustainability objectives, and if we have sustainability integrated into our highest guiding document, which we do. So we did get points for that one. And then our sustainability objectives, though, they wanted it to cover all four areas: academics, engagement, operations, and planning and admin. But we have objectives for operations and admin, and not quite the other ones yet. And then for PA8, that one's affordability and access. And so this one also has kind of like a funky scoring system, but basically they're looking at percentage of need met on average for students who were awarded any need-based aid, percentage of students graduating without student loan debt, percentage of entering students that are low income, and then graduation success rate for low-income students. So here you can see we had an 81% for a percentage of need met, 52 for students graduating without loan debt, and then 32% of entering students that are low income, and then 82% of a graduation success rate for low income students. And so to score full points, you could either earn 100% in 3 of the 4 categories, or you could earn a 75% for all. So you can see we're doing pretty well for 1 and 4, but could definitely use some improvement on 2 and 3, which was percentage of students graduating without loan, and then percentage of entering low income students. And then the last one for planning and admin was sustainable investment. This one is looking at percentage of positive sustainability investment. So are we investing in renewable energy or socially or environmentally responsible businesses? And this one we can definitely improve on. We're getting a 4.2%, but to get full points, you need a 60% or more. And then they also are looking at percentage of investor engagement. And they have a list of 6 criteria, but just to save space, I didn't list them all, but the criteria basically cover things like engaging in policy advocacy by participating in investor networks or participating in a public divestment effort targeting fossil fuel production. And then there's a bunch of other ones. Sorry, go ahead, Camille.
No, sorry, finish.
Okay. And so we are meeting all 6 of those criteria, and that's what they were looking for to achieve full points for that part.
And I just want to add on this one, this is not UC Davis's response. This is actually the UC Office of the Chief Investment Officer. Provides answers for these credits for all of the UC campuses. We have uniform and consistent answers. And there's a long history behind that, but it's been really helpful to actually have the Chief Investment Office provide this information. It's also an opportunity for us to share back with the Chief Investment Office how we're performing as a full UC system.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, because yeah, that is a big part of this credit, is that it's not only UC Davis. All right, and then so now we're moving on to innovation and leadership. And I know this graph at first can look a little overwhelming, but basically what I'm trying to show you here is that there are 50 innovation and leadership credits. They are all optional to submit. They're kind of like those bonus credits I was talking about. And so in this category, you can get a max of 4 points. Each of the 50 credits is worth half a point. So in order to achieve the max 4 points, you just need to get full points on 8 innovation and leadership credits. And so how it works is there's 46 innovation credits, and those range, like I said, they're very broad. They can range anything from campus pride index to like affordability for textbooks. And then there's also 4 innovation credits. Sorry, I think I mixed up my words. There's 46 leadership credits, and then those are the ones I was just talking about. And then there's 4 innovation credits, and those are kind of open-ended. The campus has the option of saying like, this is a new thing that we did in the past 3 years that's very innovative, and then that's how you can get credits for the innovation ones. But they're all in the same category, innovations and leadership. And here you can see our campus actually went after 15, even though we technically only needed to do 8 to get the bonus points. So that's very impressive for us. And we achieved mostly full points on all of them, except for 3, but we still got partial credit for them. And so that's all I was trying to show with that graph. And then this is just a little sampling of some of the leadership credits that we went after and we achieved. So like our Tree Campus USA for our tree plantings every year. Our diversity index is 0.72. B Campus, we recently became a fair trade college and university. We have a pretty high index for being LGBTQ friendly. We are a bicycle friendly university. And then our student farms have certified organic land. And then TGIF actually helped us get an innovation credit because one of them was about like a sustainability grant program. And then we have sustainable fleet certification. And then the student housing and dining is actually part of the Sacramento area sustainable business program. Some of the DCs are part of that program. So all around very impressive. These credits were really fun to go after. How it worked, and I don't know, Camille, if you want to speak a little more to this, was basically,
Yeah, so
yeah.
we basically asked each team member to think about all of the leadership and innovation credits, and our student team members were really leaders in identifying things that they wanted to see us go after. I thought it was very interesting that our student team members had a very broad understanding of sustainability and chose many of the more social sustainability related credits for us to go after in the leadership area. So that was a lot of fun, and it also gave us a window into things that students are interested in and care about in terms of sustainability.
Great, thanks. And then here, we just have our key takeaways, and I know we're nearing the end of the time, so we do just have one last poll for you, and that's after hearing kind of the ins and outs of all of these credits, which category do you think the campus should prioritize for improvement before the next STARS report? And then here we have listed the key takeaways for you to reference. And so it looks like a lot of people think we should focus on engagement, and then a few on academics and operations. I completely agree with all of these answers. I think there's like a lot of really good areas for us to focus on. I'm gonna go ahead and close out this poll and then move on to next steps. So first, we are hoping to improve data requests and communications with other offices. I think as a lot of you can attest to, if we've reached out to you for data, there is a lot of communication going on between our office and your office, and a lot of it's through email. Sometimes if it was like the STARS report this year, it was kind of down to the wire for some things. So we're really hoping to improve our communication with all of you, which is one of the reasons why we're doing the STARS Town Hall. So we're gonna start thinking about ways that we can do that. But if anybody that's ever had to submit data to us has any ideas, like definitely feel free to reach out to our office. We're definitely open to trying to make this a more, an easier process for everyone involved. And then Camille's gonna go into the next, some of the other next steps.
Yeah, so really quickly, our office is underway in cooperation with BOA Communications in producing a new website for sustainability, and that will launch at the end of the summer. We will highlight some of our STARS results and also just have a fresh website, so we'll be able to portray some of this information that we've gleaned from STARS reporting. And then Kelly, if you want to go to the next slide, one of our other next steps with using this information is to work closely with Global Affairs on a collaboration to do a crosswalk between our STARS reporting and the UN Sustainable Development Goals, which cover 17 different goal areas. They have 169 different targets. And we are using all of this work in STARS to understand how we're performing in the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and then we'll leverage all of the outcome from that crosswalk into different kinds of planning activities and assessing other opportunities, both from sustainability perspectives and from global affairs perspectives, international perspectives, in how to more actively engage with the UN Sustainable Development Goals as a university system.
All right, and I know we're nearing on time, and that's all we have. I don't know if there's any burning questions we want to get to. Sorry that it ran a little over. Yeah, are there any questions?
I'm not seeing any new questions coming in by chat or by the Q&A. But we really appreciate everyone's time today in going through it. And as you can see from the slide here, you can access our full report so you can see the depth of our answers. And if you do have questions, please feel free to reach out to us at our office address, sustainability@ucdavis.edu. We will, after Zoom processes this webinar recording, we will make sure that everyone has access to it who signed up for the webinar, and we'll post it on our YouTube channel so that folks can also access it. So with that, any last words, Kelly and Sue?
No, just thank you all for joining us today and taking the time to learn more about the STARS report. I really appreciate that.
All right, well, thank you so much and have a good rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.